How's it going, everyone? This is Dan with Alpine, and I'm here to talk to you about a new DSP that we're offering called the PXE-X121-12EV. To keep things simple, I'm just going to be referring to it as the X121. So the X121 has been available for a little while now as part of our Tesla plug-and-play audio systems, but now it's available on its own. Now, to go over some specs of what this product is, it is a 12-channel DSP and amplifier. It has 12 channels of high-level input, and of course 12 channels of high-level amplified outputs as well. It does have 2-channel RCA input, so if you're hooking up an aftermarket radio, you can still do that. There are also 2 pre-outs that are actually mirroring channels 11 and 12, which are the high-powered outputs, which we'll get to in a little bit. So if you do want to run an external subwoofer amplifier to get more power, you can totally do that. As far as what's included with the DSP, you get all your harnesses as well as a Bluetooth dongle, so you can stream directly to the DSP all your music. And there is an app that allows you to do all the setup and control as well. We'll be going over that here in a little bit. One thing that is not included in the box is the controller. That is available separately, and the model number for that is the RUX C810. And that'll give you control over volume, subwoofer, as well as selecting presets. Taking a closer look at the product, we can see that there are lots of plugs on this thing, so let's kind of go over them real quick. On the power side, you will see a switch that is labeled accessory and host. Host means it's a signal sense input for the high-level inputs. You would use that if there is no available accessory or remote turn-on in the vehicle. If you are using a remote turn-on or accessory, that will be on the red wire of the power harness, and then you want to make sure to flip that switch over to accessory or ACC. The next 2 plugs are simply the power speaker outputs as well as the high-level speaker level inputs. Now, one thing to note is that channels 11 and 12 have an option to be paralleled to give you a 1-channel load at a 2 ohm impedance. So that's going to be different than bridging an amplifier. So typically when you bridge 2 channels of an amp, you would use the positive of one channel and the negative of another. In this amplifier, you do not do that. You actually are going to parallel the channels together. Now they are labeled and silk screened on the amp. I know it might be a little confusing for some to know exactly what you're supposed to connect. But what you're going to do is you're actually going to put the positives of channels 11 and 12 together and the negatives of 11 and 12 together. As you can see, I kind of outlined it here on the silk screen, so it's a little better to understand. And now whenever you're using that, you also want to select in the software the PSE mode. I'll be showing you guys that here in a little bit. Now, if you're not using that, then you don't have to worry about it. Just keep 11 and 12 separate, and those will all be 4 ohm load, just like the rest of the channels, and you're good to go. Moving over to the other side of the amplifier, you'll have your RCA inputs and outputs like I talked about before, as well as digital audio. You have optical and digital coax. So if you're running another kind of device that has digital outputs, you can connect that to the DSP as well. This DSP is also high res, so any kind of high res source you're running, this DSP can handle that. Next to that, there is a plug called ambient light. That is actually not used in this region in the US, so just disregard that. This is a global product, but here in the US, we are not using that feature. The next plug is for your Bluetooth dongle, which is included in the box. And then you come to another plug that we are also not really using in this region. It's a link plug. Believe it or not, this amplifier is actually capable of being linked to another X121, so you can have a total of 24 channels, and control it through one piece of software. Pretty cool option, but like I said, that cable is not available here, so that is what that plug is for if you're curious. And then last but not least is the USB port. That is how you're going to connect this to your PC, so you can use the software to set up and tune. You can also use this USB port as a USB audio input. So if you're using some kind of device that has that has USB audio capabilities, you can actually use this as an external audio source. It's pretty cool. Other than that, that's pretty much it. So once you guys get this thing installed, and you need to, one thing you're going to need to do is set it up and set up all your channels, do your tuning, whatever. There's 2 different ways you can do that. You can use an app on your phone. This will work for iOS or Android, or you can use the PC software. Now, me personally, I like to use the PC software, and that's what I'm going to be going over a little more in depth in this video. But to find the app, it's real simple. On iOS, you're going to go over to the App Store, and we will search for Alpine Music. And you're going to see right here an app called Alpine Music. Now I already have this installed on my phone, but you're going to install this. And then before we open it, actually we'll go and open it now. You're going to want to set the device that you're wanting to use, right? So right when you first launch this, this is what you're going to see. There will be no devices in here, so we need to add what kind of device we're using. So we'll hit the plus icon and then hit add device. And you're going to see a list of a bunch of products in here. Now, like I said, this is a global app, so there's going to be a lot of products in here that we actually don't have in the US. But you're going to want to look for the PXE-X121-12EV, as you can see right here. Now, if you guys are also curious, if you're running like an A50X or an X09 or a D90, this is also an app that you can use to control those as well. So you can actually add all of those in here if you want to. For today, we're going to use the X121. So I'm going to select that, and it's going to download. And now we have that in our app. Now, before we can connect to the DSP, we're going to want to pair in our Bluetooth settings. So we're going to go over to settings, and we'll wait for it to discover it. There it is right there, DSP HD. Now, it'll always start with DSP HD, and the last numbers and letters will be different depending on which one you have. So we're going to select that. There is no PIN code. It will just automatically connect. So we can see here that we are now connected. So let's go back over to the app, and then we're going to tap the red Bluetooth icon right next to the off here. And it will see that we already have this device paired in our Bluetooth settings. So it's going to auto connect. And now it'll load. And now we're successfully loaded. So when you have the green icon lit, that means you are connected to the DSP, and we are now controlling it. And also when you're connected to the DSP in either the phone app or the PC software, the DSP light will flash, kind of a slow flash. If you're wondering why it's flashing, it's because you have the app or the PC software connected to it. So quick little overview of the app. On the home, you'll have the home screen here. This is where you can select your main source, your mix source, and your presets. I'm going to go in depth with all these more on the PC software. So that's your home screen. You have your EQ screen, channel by channel. Everything in here is unlocked. Everything is available to you in the app. So if you don't like using a computer, this is one way you can do it. But like I said, of course, you set your crossovers, your time correction, all that stuff, as well as set up your mix source. And that's it. And of course, you have an options here of some behind the scenes settings, which we're going to go over in the PC software as well. So I just want to show you guys that the app is there. It is available, and you can do everything that the PC software does in the app as well. It's really cool. We are going to now move over to the PC software. Now, if you go from one to the other, one thing you need to do before you connect the next, like for example, I'm going to connect the PC. You want to tap the Bluetooth, the power, and you want to disconnect. You cannot connect this to a phone app and the PC software at the same time. You want to keep them separate. So we are disconnected, so we're good. Now I'm going to go ahead and fire up the PC software. And before I do that, I want to show you guys where you can find that. So when you head over to the Alpine-USA website, you're going to see the support link right here. We'll click that. And then you're going to click over here to Knowledge Center. And at the time of this recording, the software is not posted yet, but this is where it will be posted. If you do not see it as a promoted article, then you can search for X121. If I do that right now, we're not going to see anything because we don't have it posted yet. But if you don't see it on that main page, this is an easy way to find it. So once you get that all downloaded and installed, we will fire it up here. And then if you fire it up and plug in, it will auto connect. I already have it plugged in to the USB port of the PC, but we're going to go ahead and hit power. And you see it synchronizes, and now it's all connected, which is really nice. It'll actually show you the temperature and status right up here, as well as the voltage that you're running it at. So kind of going over the home screen here. A lot of it's pretty self-explanatory, but we have our master volume, and you can mute and unmute right here. You select your main source input right here, and for most installs, you're probably gonna use high level if you're using an OEM source. But of course, you can run this thing just Bluetooth as your main source, or USB audio, or optical, whatever you want to do. Mix source is pretty cool. That means you can have a secondary source that will auto switch to it once it detects audio. For example, let's say you have Bluetooth as your mix source and you have your device paired to it. Once you start playing anything from that device through Bluetooth, it will automatically switch the input to Bluetooth. And then will, as far as how much it mutes the main source, is what the main source attenuation slider is here. So if you want to do that, you want it to mute all the way, you just do 100%. If you're doing something a little more complicated, like you want some kind of prompts coming through, but it just kind of lowers the volume of your main source, that's where you would lower that. It just depends on the install and the application that you're running it at. Down here, we're going to be our presets. So when you click the preset, it will allow you to. It'll ask you, do you want to call, save? That way, call means you're going to load, save means you're going to save the preset. Like you do have 6 of those available, and down here we're going to have the exclusive sound effects, and I'll kind of just briefly explain what these are. So if you click one key switch, that will allow you to turn them all on and off at the same time. That's what that's for. But Halo sound is something unique to Alpine. It is going to be kind of like a surround mode. Think of it like if it's still not going to be true like 5.1 Dolby Digital or Atmos or something like that. It's going to be more of a simulation of surround mode going off of your 2-channel source that you have going into it. So you can toggle this on and off and kind of see if it's something you prefer the sound of or not. If you do or don't, it's up to you. MVES sound is something that's going to be better for if you need a little more bass enhancement at lower volumes. That's kind of what this is for. You can honestly kind of think of this as like an auto loudness in a way. So if you can play around with that too to see if you like the bass more at lower volumes with this toggled on. Like I said, it's going to be a personal preference to you as well. Smart mid-range is pretty cool. This actually is a kind of a center channel enhancement mode. So it'll actually take, through an algorithm that we developed, it will actually extract center channel information from the front left and front right channels and put that into whatever channel is assigned center, which I'll show you guys how to do that here in a second. Another thing that you can play around with to see if it works. So if you're doing an install where you are maintaining a center channel, you can play around with this to see if it actually really enhances your center channel experience or not. It's going to depend case by case and install, but that's what smart mid-range is. So moving on over to kind of up here at the option here, this is going to be some settings of the DSP. So sensitivity setting is going to have a little window pop up, and this is going to be what kind of voltage you're giving the high level input. And you can click and select to change its range. So by default, it's going to be at a 28 volt peak to peak level. That's going to be kind of comparable to like a lower amplified system or maybe like deck power. Now, if you're running a more of a high level, higher powered OEM system with a factory amplifier, and it's going to have a little higher voltage than this, you can actually move it up to 50 volt peak to peak. So if you are getting distortion at higher volumes and on your OEM system, try messing with this. That might get you back into the voltage range you need to be in. Moving down, high pass filter. This is anything that's in the DSP that has a tweeter as a label. It will automatically throw a high pass filter on it regardless, to help protect it just in case. If you are concerned about possibly sending a wrong signal to a tweeter or anything like that, this will help prevent you from doing that. If you click free, that will unlock it and you can do whatever you want on those channels. Think of it as kind of like a tweeter protection setting. So Then you have your firmware update. There's no firmware update at the time of me recording, but if you were to, you click this and it will have and you just had to download the file and that's where you would load it. Built-in amplifier, you can turn off the built-in amp if you want to. Considering this thing is a 12-channel amp, you're probably not going to be using that. Multi-zone toggle. This is a pretty cool setting. So let's turn this on. And you're going to see that the home screen has changed a lot. Now what this is going to allow you to do is you can tell it on the channel output channels up here what is in zone 1 and what is in zone 2. Now you might be asking, now when would this come in handy? When would I use this? So let's think of, like, let's say it's a Sprinter van that has like it's a conversion that has like an RV conversion. You can have this amp have a couple of zones for the front that's running off of the factory radio, but then in the back it could be a whole nother source, like it could be on Bluetooth, for example. So we do that, and we want, let's say we're going to use channels 7, 8, 9, and 10. We're going to put those in zone 2. So you can have Bluetooth now play in zone 2 with its own volume slider. So you can have two different sources playing at the same time, and you can select what output channels are doing what. So that's what multi-zone is. Pretty cool feature. So if you are doing something that requires like a front and rear zone or anything like that, this is how you would do that. I'm going to turn that back off. And then, of course, you can reset device parameters, restore factory settings. You can adjust the shutdown delay, and then about for what version of the software and firmware you're on the DSP. And, of course, encryption. That allows you to set a password or a PIN code. I would recommend a PIN code. So if you want to lock someone out of this, whenever they connect to the app or the software, they would have to enter in that PIN code in order to use it. And then the last thing to point out up here is a clipping indicator. This will actually flash, and it will get to red or yellow depending on how hard you're clipping. So if you are, this will always be up there. So when you're playing music, you can, if you're wondering if you're getting any kind of clipping, you have a clipping indicator right there. Cool. So moving on over to the EQ screen. This is going to be pretty familiar to a lot of our other Alpine DSPs. If you guys have messed with like the 850X or the D90, this is going to be very similar. There is a couple of extra really cool features in here though. Right off the bat though, you'll see that it's already kind of pre-populated with some channel assignments. If these don't match what you're doing, you can totally change them and do whatever you want. One thing you can do is you can just hit reset and you can clear out all the channels right off the bat, or you can put it on as like a default. So like, well, I'll hit clear, and you can see now we're all on null, so there's no crossover set, there's nothing set at all. So I'm going to say, like, you know, these are front left tweeter on channels 1 and 2, and then we'll do like front mid range and so on. So there, you can also see on the side here, the channel layout. You want to make sure that you are wiring it up to what channel you're applying here. So whenever you set channel 1 to the front left tweeter, you want to make sure that channel 1 on the output harness is going to the front left tweeter and so on. So just be wary of how the system is wired and then just apply this to how you wired it. Now, something else to note here is that this amplifier actually does have staggered power outputs. So what that means is, and you can actually see it right here in the software, that channels 1 through 6 are actually rated at 50 watts per channel, whereas channels 7 through 10 are rated at 25 watts, and then channels 11 and 12 are rated at 100 watts. And we're going to come back to that 4 ohm thing. That's actually goes back to the parallel wiring we talked about before. I'm going to come back to that. So you want to keep that in mind for how you're wiring this and what channels are going to be driving what. Now, for example, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. So you can have more power in your front stage. So if, let's say, you're running an active 3-way system like this, then you want to, and you just want to have a little less power for the rears. Let's say, let's just say you actually have it active in the back 2-way. So you could do rear tweeter and then rear woofer. Right, and then you can, of course, have these channels as sub, right? So you can do that. So if, or you can just say, hey, you know what, 25 watts, that's totally enough for my tweeters. You can actually make these the tweeters and then run like a little more, run like the higher power channels to those rear woofers. It's up to you. Just make sure you wire it accordingly, okay? And then the last thing I want to talk about on this side over here is this. So whenever you do wire up channels 11 and 12 into parallel mode, you are stable at a 2 ohm load at that point, and you're going to get a 200 watt channel. So whenever you wire that, you want to come over into the software, and you're going to want to click this little 4 ohm icon here and change it to 2 ohm PSE. It will pop up a little warning saying, hey, it'll clear all settings on the channels. If you have already set, just hit OK. And now you will see that channel 12 is not highlighted anymore, and channel 11 is now all your settings for that channel. So if you are running a mono woofer and you want a little more power, that is how you can do that. Okay, so we'll leave that setting on, and then going back up to one of the other channels here. So looking at the channel settings over here, you'll see that we can adjust, of course, the channel gain up, and and you can actually adjust what kind of increments you want. You can even go down to 0.1 dB steps if you want to. Excuse me. You can also adjust the phase by 1 degree increments per channel. Now this is going to really, this is actually more of like a base phase. So on a tweeter channel, it's not going to do anything, but on a woofer or a sub, this will actually adjust the lower frequencies phase. And of course you can also just flip the phase of the entire frequency range at 180 degrees out if you need to. That is right there. And then you, of course, say your crossover slopes right here. So you have your high pass and your low pass filters. So just like all of our other DSPs, there's no change there. Another cool thing here up on the EQ, just like all other Alpine DSPs, that is a 31 band parametric or graphic. By default, it is going to be in parametric, and that's how you can see it's selected right here, PEQ mode. Something that is very unique to this DSP that we have not done before is, of course, you have your frequency, your Q value, and your gain, but there's also an all-pass filter. So as you can see, there are 30, because the last one's not selectable, all-pass filters on this channel, and this is per channel. Now I'm going to move over to channel 3 here and to play with this all-pass filter. So you can select the all-pass filter for whatever frequency. So, like for example, at 1K, I'm gonna click all pass. Now, whenever I do that, it's going to gray out the gain and bypass here. That means at 1K and as well as the frequency, you can adjust this frequency. I'll show you how to do that in a second, but this is going to flip that frequency 180 degrees out of phase just at that frequency, but you can still adjust the Q. So you can actually slide down over here. You got to be kind of careful when you do this, but you actually see these squares. You can actually adjust the Q accordingly by clicking and dragging, or you can actually highlight the number here and use the arrow keys on your keyboard, or you can even punch in the number. Like you can delete it out, and I can put in like 4, for example. So you can do that, as well as the frequency can be adjusted. You can either punch in the number, move the arrows, or you can, up here, you can click and drag, and you can move that all pass wherever you want. So for a good example of this, and I'm going to restore this, I'm going to reset all this here. Let's say in the mid-range you want to use an all-pass filter, but you don't want to mess with any of the bands that are already in here. You can actually take band 1 over here, because it's totally not being used, turn it into an all-pass, and then bring it in over here. And let's say we put that at this frequency, and you need it at that Q, and now you're good. You have that on top of all your EQ that you've applied. So that's a pretty cool feature. And like I said, there are 30 all-pass filters per channel, which is a pretty crazy high amount of all-pass filters. So there you go. Another really cool feature in here that I like to use is in this box over here. This is the link box, so you can actually set up to 6 links. What that means is, like, let's say I want to to link. Let's say on channel 1, I'll leave it on a link. Let's say I've kind of set my EQ, right? So I like that. And then channel 4 has this EQ, right? But now you want to put them together and adjust them simultaneously, but not override what you've done. So you can make them a link. And now let's say on band like 24, for example, I'm going to move that up. You will see that it has applied that to both without overriding anything that I've done. Now let's say I move band 17 down. You'll see that it actually does this accordingly. So like if I bring it back up here, it's going to be up higher there. All right. So it's a really cool feature. So when you're kind of fine tuning the global EQ, that's a really handy thing to have. Another really easy way to see how you're applying the EQ to both channels at the same time is you can actually select them up here, and you will see a line that you actually see both channels at the same time here. So whenever you adjust the EQ, you will actually see both what's happening to both sides at the same time. So really cool feature. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to cancel those links, and we're going to move on over to the time correction tab. So pretty self-explanatory here. You have all your channels, and you can mute them, each one, just by clicking the driver. If you want to adjust that channel, you just highlight the box, and you have the slider here. It'll show you milliseconds, centimeters, and inches. So whichever method you like to use, it's there. You can use your mouse slider, or you can use your arrow keys on your keyboard, or you can highlight and then punch in your value and hit enter, and then of course you can even go and adjust it from there. One thing that's really cool is you can also do the grouping, like linking, like I showed in EQ. You can do that over here as well. So it's all called group delay. So let's say we have these 3 channels on these delays. So we'll make them all in group 1. Now, whenever you adjust the delay, it's going to adjust the difference across all of them. Now, this can come in handy for trying to get your sub to blend into the front stage. If you have your front stage set like you want, you can set your entire front stage as a group delay and then delay that to get the sub to kind of move forward. So really handy there. And of course, you can have up to 6 of these at the same time. And whenever you're done using the group delay, you just hit that X and it'll take it out of that group. Okay. Now the last screen here is the screen that can be a little scary to some people, and that is understandable. It's a lot of channels here, so what you can see here is all the inputs across the left side of the screen and all the outputs going from left to right across the bottom. Now we'll see right now that channel 12 is not lit up because we have it in the PSE mode. If I go back and turn that off, we will see now it's lit up. So what this essentially means is whatever channel, whatever signal is coming through, let's say on high level 1, this is a signal by percentage up to 100%. Whatever's coming through here, it will go out here. All right. So if you want a channel 1 is a front left, like full range signal from your factory radio. And then you're going to want 100% of that signal to go out to your front left speaker, which will be a tweeter, and then over here a mid-range, and then over here a woofer, and so on. If you have for rear speakers, let's say channels 3 is your left rear, and you're going to have that as 100% signal going out to your left rear. Okay, so that's kind of covering this top section of high level. Now, if you need to, if it's active system that you have, it'll try to guess what you have depending on the labels that you put here in the EQ screen. But always kind of go through, just double check and make sure it's correct to you. And of course, you can see over here, it's assuming we don't have a sub channel output. So it's going to take front, left, and right and put them both together to make a mono signal to go out to your sub. Now, if your factory system does have a sub, like let's say you wired it up to channel 7 and 8, then you would change channel 7 and 8 to be your signal for the subwoofer and so on. You can also click this active button here. It will clear out what's already been done if you click this now. And this will actually kind of open up a bunch of sliders for you. I normally don't use this, but this is assuming that everything in your factory system is active but like I said, it's probably not going to match in real world what you're doing. So I always recommend by leaving it on passive which is already the default anyway, and then just moving your sliders accordingly. And as you can see down here, this also does have your auxiliary, where your low-level inputs, your optical, coax, Bluetooth, and USB. And those are just 2 channels, so it's going to be only 2 rows per. So it'll be 1 for left, 1 for right, and so on. As you can see on subwoofers, it's always going to mono those together. And you can always change that if you want to. And that's pretty much it. That's the software in a nutshell. Just a kind of quick overview of what everything is. If you guys have any questions, just let us know. And thanks for watching.